Hey, listeners and viewers, this is Chris. We have a little bit of a preamble before the episode begins. We hope you enjoy the episode. Before we get to that, we recorded this last week with Will. It was great. We talked a bit about all different kinds of things, some of it pertaining to stuff at City Hall with Mayor Peter Chirico's expenses. Some information came out not long after the episode, as news does, that we didn't have access to talk about. So just know that going into this, that we're probably going to talk about this topic again later. But as of the time of recording, we didn't have the information that most of the city has now through the Freedom of Information Act and the detailed expense reports being released. So keep that in mind. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Take a listen. Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Chris Pekarski. And on today's episode, we have journalist of BayToday.ca, Will Konken, with us. It's a great episode.
Yeah, the new guy.
Yeah, the new guy. He's new to the area. He's new to the game, but he's coming in at just a heater of a time. And so we wanted to pick his brain a bit about that and where he came from, his process. And for me, in the episode, I talked about it. It was like a very selfish way for me to kind of be like, old guard, new guard, journos, get into it, the stock process. Yeah. And I was spectating for a while, but it was a great episode. It was really nice to kind of meet Will and get to know him.
Well, he's a new guy covering city council as his first beat. And of course, the heat you're talking about isn't the humidity outside.
No.
It's the mayor's expense situation, corporate credit cards and all. One of the things that we talked about, and we'll just get to the interview because it was such a good one.
Yeah.
Really kind of touched home is when we were talking about the responsibility of a journalist to not just cover the dirty grit of this particular type of situation, but to also cover community issues and to be reflective of the good things and the bad things, right?
Yeah.
So he mentioned the fact that he did his first story was on the basketball courts downtown.
Yep.
And it made me remember that one of the things that was bothering me when I was at BayToday and I was their LGI guy covering the outside townships, communities.
For those who aren't aware, LGI is...
It's a local journalism initiative. If you're on the far right, it's how Trudeau was paying off the media. We were able to hire people to cover actually communities that didn't get regular coverage because it didn't get the traffic that was necessitated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was covering... for 6 months. I think I started in the fall of 2020 and through to the spring of 2021. So I was covering Mattawa, Sturgeon, Bondfield, and school board, but through the meetings, right? Not in person and not on a regular basis because you had to cover not just one community. You had to cover a little bit of everybody. So I felt really guilty covering all their dirty laundry, but not being there to cover their clean laundry, right? And it wasn't fair. I was just swooping in, watching from afar, writing up my take on it all, maybe following up with interviews, maybe doing other things in between, but the balance wasn't there. And it threw me off balance because I wasn't able to do, to make good things, to actually be a real community journalist. So that was an interesting one aspect of our conversation. I appreciate it.
I like that. I think that the balance is kind of often forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when we talk about, as a consumer of the news, we forget about, there's a lot of good stories we need to talk about, not just the ones that are, need to know, things that we want to know, the nice to know. Talk about the inverted pyramid, right? Talk about that in the show. Yeah, he's gonna figure out all the different areas he has to cover. It was really interesting to kind of get to see you kind of impart wisdom and pick the brain of a younger, currently more active in the process journalist. But it was great. I thought it was fun.
A new journalist, a new generation journalist.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was. We're gonna try to have Will in again. He seemed like he's definitely got his ears to the ground, boots on the ground. Listening for all kinds of things, City Hall beat related, and obviously the other feel good stories. But it was great. It was nice. It was nice getting a very fresh perspective. I think he's much like us, kind of waiting to kind of see a lot of the bigger developments. But he's been very astute to kind of report on the facts. right? And he said that too.
A humility of understanding that he doesn't know everything right now.
Yeah.
And he never really will. And I don't know everything either, but you get a sense that you know more after a while.
You don't know everything, Dave Dale?
I don't know everything, but I'm willing. If you have anything you want me enlighten me on.
No, it was a great episode. We're really excited for you to listen to it. Much like the BayToday comment section, let us know your thoughts, your processes, your opinions on the topic, the writing, our local media landscape in general. Drop us all that kind of information. But before we get to that, I want to thank and throw it to our lead sponsor, Source for Sports.
Spring is here, and that means one thing. Baseball is back. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of every pitch, every catch, and every moment that brings our community together on the diamond. Whether it's outfitting little leaguers for their very first game, helping local teams suit up for the season, or simply sharing a love of the sport, we're here for it. We're more than just a sports store. We're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to support the leagues, schools, and families who make North Bay's baseball scene so special. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
Today's episode, we have Will Konken from BayToday, a local journalist, new to the area. Will, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks very much for having me. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Getting to know North Bay. I feel like this is the place to talk.
Yeah, well, there's lots going on right now. I'm sure we'll get into a bit of that. But for our listeners, for our readers, our watchers, can you tell them a bit about yourself and your process, how you got here?
How I got here? Yeah. I feel like I like to call myself a little bit of a nomad. I feel like in the journalism, radio business, I've worked in both, that you kind of like tour around little places here and there. So I'm originally from Kamloops, came out to Ontario for school, and then met my now wife and decided to plant on roots. And I always like to say she's more beautiful than BC. So decided to stay here. And then so met her in Ottawa, then moved to Toronto for a little bit. And then that's when I first started to get into writing and thought about journalism. I was a residential and commercial painter, so I was working construction a lot. Wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, and then the pandemic happened. Everything closed down. I was out of work for a bit. So then I thought I wanted to, I enjoy writing. I can work online. Let's try that. Took the sports journalism program at Centennial College, and then got my first gig at Rock 95, Cool FM in Barrie, and then was there for 3 years, and then decided to head more north to North Bay and see what here's all about. And I was able to land the gig at BayToday.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Welcome to the Gateway.
It's the gateway to the north, absolutely.
Had you known or been to North Bay before?
I had done one pass through. Me and my wife, we were taking the bus from Bracebridge up to North Bay and then up and over to Ottawa. So that was the only one time that I had come through. But she has some friends here, so she had been here a couple of times, was somewhat familiar with the city.
Oh, yeah.
First takes on the city so far?
I like it. I like it so far. I've been hearing some people say they love it. Some people say maybe there's things that could be better. Obviously, every city in town, there's good and bads. But so far, what I'm liking the lakes close by. Traffic's not as bad.
It's a big one, isn't
compared to down more south. I feel like people would probably say the same thing, that it could be better traffic as well. I know the 11 going up by the mall and stuff, everyone says that you sometimes get caught up there for 15, 20 minutes. But
the bike park.
There you go. I mean, so, yeah.
I'm sure Dave will echo my thoughts on this, no pun intended. But I think with North Bay, we always like to complain about the things that we don't like, but we always often kind of forget the things that are kind of nice.
Exactly.
Like the whole non-traffic thing is like, it's such you forget about it, because like you go down to Barrie, like North Barrie, kind of merging into that, like there's always lane closures, it's always backed up. And I'm not even talking about the 401 yet. We're not even getting to that beast, but like we forget, like I can get to work and it's a couple kilometers. I can get work in 5 minutes.
No,
I can kind of drag my heels a little bit and still get here on time.
Absolutely.
And I can't do that elsewhere.
And I heard that the 400 through Barrie, they're opening it up to 10 lanes. I think they're adding in a couple more lanes through there. So
how does that even look?
Oh, I don't know. It's
like a video game.
A video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimate Frogger.
I just drove down there back to Mississauga on Saturday, and it takes a bit to get used to people and these little rockets of these small little cars just going through the lanes, right? Just thinking that they're in some type of video game, and it's
just weaving in
you're
and
so
out.
close to danger everywhere, right?
It's just not worth trying to drive like Alexander Hamilton or Alexander Hamilton. That's the founding father. I'm talking about Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton.
Because at that point you're you're just racing for the fun of it, right? Like, be careful.
Exactly.
You're heading fast and furious to a big standstill, because there's always a standstill. Like, I don't know where they think they're going, but
No,
same
exactly,
place.
right?
But yeah, glad to leave. Love leaving Toronto. Love it.
The wave goodbye.
Let him say goodbye, right?
In the mirror. Yeah, that's what I like to see Toronto.
Fair. So let's talk some work. So you said you came from Barrie recently, right? What was the kind of work you were doing in Barrie beforehand? You said you're working with the radio, or?
Yeah. So I was a general reporter during the week, and then on the weekends I would anchor the news for the weekend news. And then as like time went on, then more of the regular week guys would want to take time off. And then by the end of it, I was pretty much half my time was on the weekend on air and during the week as well, or whatever. So I'd kind of be covering everything, sports stuff going on, any live events, I'd be there covering it, talking to. My main beat right now with BayToday is City Hall and stuff. But down in Barrie, I didn't really do as much. I was telling you that off air.
Yeah.
But I was always like chatting with the councillors, chatting with the mayor about what's going on. So I felt like I had a pretty good, like, not grasp of what's going on in Barrie. But the slogan for Rock 95 and Barrie 360 is the news for it or whatever. And it was what Barrie's talking about. So I feel like I had a pretty decent grasp on what Barrie was talking about.
Fair enough. So what was Barrie talking about before you left? Like, did you leave it in a good place? Because you kind of came into a bit of a situation here. What'd you leave it in?
Yeah. I think I left it in a good situation. Yeah, everything was. It was just getting so busy down there, and I don't know. There was always news happening.
Yeah.
Always news happening. Always like crashes. With crashes on the highway, like we were just talking about, lots of fires. There was always just stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't really know what else kind of to say.
That's fair. I mean, like, because I've always known, I have a lot of family lives in Barrie, right? I think we know Barrie has been growing exponentially for the last, 15, 20 years, right? We always hear about North Bay growing, and it's growing slowly, I think. But just knowing Barrie and how it's expanded especially the last 10 years, like, it's a different place than I remember it being. And it's constantly busy. It's very active. Like, 10 lanes is insane. All the things going through it, kind of being like a place people want to live, but be close to Toronto. It's kind of like a nice, like, halfway for a lot of people, right? It's not a place of compromise per se, because that's kind of doing it a disservice, but there's lots going on. Right?
No, for sure.
So coming to a place like North Bay, where people who are outsiders will often be like, is this a city? Is this a town? We don't really know. I mean, it's a different kind of vibe, but it's a small city, but it has its feel, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely does. Yeah, no, you have everything you need up here. It's not like you're not having a mall. You got all the different stores. There's at least one of everything, and that's all I need. I've always been a pretty easygoing guy. I really don't need too much. So I think the hustle and bustle of being down there really kind of like took its toll, or not took its toll, but I was kind of done with it. I was ready for something different. Like at the beginning, I was saying, like, I feel like a nomad. I was in BC, wanted to try out a different part of Canada, explore this part of Canada. You were saying off air too, that just like I like to say that even though we're all the same country, we all have just a different take on what's going on in our area of the country. So it's really, I just love seeing new perspectives and stuff too. So it was really nice to see, and right now get to understand what North Bay's perspective is.
And so this is fun for me because, my lovely co-host Dave Dale has been a longtime journalist and reporter in the city for various different areas and various different topics. And so kind of having, some of the new guard, I won't call you old guard, Dave, but having one of our, seasoned local experts, I'm kind of just want to see you guys mix it in and talk, journo, and just talk like, what works, what's different, what's new, what's old. But obviously talk about what you're working on right now and maybe like how that looks for our city. So, I mean, I'm keen to see like what's your process, what's your methods? Because I'm not a journalist, if that isn't very clear. I applied for journalism back in 2009. I didn't get in. Went to communications, which was probably a better direction for me. But I mean, you got one-on-one here, so I'm kind of keen to see what's different and what works and what's going on right now.
I started out in sports as well, and I worked out of Barrie and Aurelia in '92.
Oh, okay.
So I go back a little bit. Right before it was already turning into a bedroom community for Toronto, but the sports in Barrie and Orillia was just excellent, right? It was back when the racetrack was where it was there, and I got to ride in the pace truck and take photos of the horses right in front of me, and there's football, and I covered all kinds of great sports. So it's cool. But also it was political, and it was easily transferred over to council coverage because I covered council debate issues like sports stories, right? You learn a lot about how to describe things and sort of transition in sports. And you can pick up all the cliches, but you can use those devices in covering what people say and how people react and keeping score, right? Basically, who wins
the play-by-play.
Yeah, right. So very transferable. I'm sure that you'll be able to use those skills easily, especially in a what we would call a council in flux, right? With with heated issues or complex issues, anyways, right? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that was a perfect summation of it. That makes a lot of sense. You're just trying to describe the play-by-play, what's going on. And I've only really been in journalism, I guess, for just over 3 years now. So I feel like I'm still getting kind of a grasp of what it is, and it seems like it's really evolving. You've been in it for a long time, so yeah, how has that kind of evolved over the years?
It has changed a lot, and both my perception of it and what the reality is right now, right? And today's journalism is totally different than what we had to deliver, and the packaging is different. Timelines are different for stories. Editing, research, process was all different because we didn't have the 24/7 I was mostly print. So we had the advantage of, polishing things and planning them a little bit more than you do on even radio that's doing it, more up to date. And a lot of times, depending on reporters for print or people that are covering things as beats, for their news. So it's totally different now because I see people trying to text in the middle of debates from council. And I don't know how that's possible for your brain to be engaged in two different things at once. You're not going to be picking up what's being talked about if you're texting what was just talked about. So you're losing, right? Yeah. And so in that rush to get things immediate, I think there's some loss of perspective and relevance, figuring out what's relevant and what's important and what is actually a sort of a balanced statement. It's just, you're just picking a moment in time and just putting it out there. And that's all people, so the readership's all changed, the viewership's all changed, where back in my day, people wanted to read the full story. Right? Most people would read the full story, although we wrote it, the headline and the lead was most of it, reverse inverted pyramid. But I also had the advantage, I did columns all the time. So you could actually write in a way where your ending was more important than your beginning. And if people didn't get there, then they missed. So people would get there. You'd have a regular thing. So I don't know if it's what is transferable to what is today.
No, for sure. And then add social media in the mix too.
Well, that's the
it
thing.
Seems like
that's that immediate, and then the lack of people don't have the attention to be able to finish 3-4 paragraphs.
Yeah, like you said, need that headline, that lead, and then maybe a bit of that nut graph with some info and stuff. But that's kind of what they all kind of hit on, right?
Yeah,
that's all they want to see.
Yeah. So it's hard, and you'll know this when there's so much more to explain, but you can't get it all in there. So people are missing.
For sure,
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not a journalist. Again, I'll give that caveat. But as a person who writes for a living, I'm relatively convinced, just from my perspective, people don't read past the headline often. Sometimes you get a little bit more, and I like to think, coming from the source, they're reading your stuff more than they're reading maybe some of my stuff, which might be, more like media release, which kind of goes in its own direction. But I don't know. I just feel like people will talk about a story, but never actually talk about it. They'll say oh, did you see this thing in the news? This thing happened here and here. It's okay, yeah. So what do you think about it? Well, I don't know. I didn't read it. It's well, why didn't you read the article? That's the whole point of it being there, right? But I mean, that's a whole different challenge. You talk about attention span, talk about, time on and moving to the next topic. It's all so instantaneous, right? It feels like the news cycle and the platform marketplace is just so competitive now because there's so many things you have to compete with on this little, 6-inch little device in your pocket.
Do you feel like there was a definitive changeover to like attention span and everything, or do you feel like it just slowly kind of happened over the years, would you say?
Smartphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the line in the sand right there. As soon as people had a readily accessible distraction device at their hands, and to look busy instead of think, and to comment on 100 things but without any relevance or context or depth, right? And it became very emotional, more so than it was before, I think. So you have that was what I saw. People were, as soon as they had a smartphone, they got dumb.
I always take like joy. I don't know if joy is the right word, but I would say, and you're welcome to clarify this if you like. The BayToday comment section always seems to be like a lightning rod of discussion. Your readers love to engage. I've never seen, unlike a lot of other news sources, quite the amount of engagement from your reader. Like as a writer, like how do you feel about that? Whether it's like in a agreement to a point, or disagreement with a coverage point, or just them kind of going on two different sides of things. Like how does that impact your day to day? Does it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. That's on my mind for sure. Definitely getting into the business, I knew that this was gonna be a thing that people are gonna critique what you say or what is going on. But I think over time, it obviously it still bothers me. Like it's on my mind. Still have to prepare for it, but it's definitely not as, I think it's like exposure therapy.
Yeah.
Over the years, now I've gotten like more used to it, or maybe it's not kind of like slides off my back a little bit more. It's not as hard, but that's what we're here for. We're here for like that's what part of a story is let's present something that's going on in the city, and then let's have some discourse about it. What does everyone think? And I was kind of thinking about it on my ride here, like what makes a good story? I still don't know what makes a good story. Not is it if there's you get 100,000 views on an article, does that make it a good story? Is it because of the photo? Is it because of the comment section? Is it because it creates that discourse? I'm still not too sure, but I don't know. I like to see engagement with it for sure. I like to see people discuss what's going on in town, what's important to them.
Well, you're certainly on a discussionable point, and we can talk about this a little bit. I know Dave would love to talk about this. It's difficult because I'll just be very transparent with our listeners. It's tough for us to kind of tackle this because we kind of want our show to kind of cover it in length because we don't want to be necessarily newsbreakers. We want to tell the full story. But being kind of on the being on the beat, what are you seeing right now with City Hall, especially pertaining to the mayor and the expenses and what's happening there? Can you shed any bit of that process or what you're seeing from this story?
Yeah, there's a lot of different, a lot to unpack, and I feel like I really still don't have a full grasp. Like, obviously, I've been doing my research on what's been going on in the past, what's been like the lead up to this and everything. So I don't have like a concrete kind of viewpoint on what is going on kind of with this or what my full take is. I feel like that as a journalist overall, or like as a reporter, like now you gotta just put out the facts, and then I don't really have a whole lot to say on it right now. I feel like I can't. I don't have my feet in the water enough to really have a full take on kind of what's going on. It's a lot, though. It's a lot. And then you were kind of saying off air, too, that it hasn't really kind of been seen as much. Or have you seen this to this degree of all this going on? Has this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
From time to time, there's been different controversial issues. But I am hopeful from what you're saying there, because that's how you should approach this in your situation. There's no way that you would understand it fully. You're just new here. You don't know the players involved as well as others. But a journalist should always be in the position of saying, well, the jury's out on the final decision or of the final verdict, because you're not a judge, right? You're just one of the jurors, really, but the one with the notepad trying to make sense of it. So it's a healthy way to look at things. is to be humble enough to know that you don't have a real, positive sort of understanding of it, right?
Exactly. I was just it kind of popped into my mind right now. I was talking to my editor, Jeff Turrell. We were talking about just what is kind of being a journalist, a reporter, and everything. And he mentioned he gets a front row seat to history. So I think I take it with some pride that I am representing BayToday, but also the people of North Bay, that I get a seat to hear all this history. So I definitely take that to heart, and don't try to. Yeah, I definitely take that to heart, to know that I'm the person in there for them.
It's a cool way of putting it, right? Like, I think we always want to be there for some sort of, recollectable history. We want to be able to remember and understand and say we were there for a certain thing. You're kind of like the boots on the ground, right? Along with your fellow journalists and your colleagues, that, yeah, you're kind of just waiting and seeing and reporting and doing what you can. I mean, obviously the discourse is going to happen outside of that. In every capacity with regards to this topic and many others, people are going to have their opinions, and people are going to have some summary of all, if not some of the facts, and they'll always come with their own innate bias, and that's challenging, I'm sure, because we all want to understand what's going on. There's only certain things that we can fully kind of understand, certain things that are only made public, and so it becomes challenging. But I think if I can just speak freely, it's a unique position that you're in right now because you are new to the area. You don't have a lot of that pre-installed history, or maybe people would call longitudinal bias or whatever have you, to kind of say one thing or the other. You are just purely reporting the facts, and that's your job, right? But there's definitely an interest in this story at the city level that people really, really, really care, because mostly it's related to a public figure, and it's a sum of funds, and it's people have their opinions.
Well, part of what you're saying, I think, is on target. Knowing the depth of and the background of the players involved is very enlightening to what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's things that it'd be helpful to know about the background to understand the current situation. Like Jamie Lowry and Tanya Raybosch, for example, have a history, right? But not a lot of people know it. There's another history involving pretty well all the players. I don't want to get into too much of it, but I find that amusing because I've been sitting eating popcorn for 20 years here, watching council, 25 almost. And the Mayor Peter Chirico being a deputy mayor in 2010 when that last expense policy was created, that's good depth knowledge to have, right? That answers some of the questions for the excuses he was given, and knowing that what his record was when he was with the banks and the Chamber of Commerce, where he said that was this type of thing, and the entitlement of golf course memberships and those type of things, or a broader sort of look at what's acceptable for a corporate credit card for the city. Knowing that stuff, you can really weave a really good story. But your job, without knowing all that stuff, is to give the bare bones, basic play-by-play, and let people sort of have that information as fast as they possibly can. Some of them will have background knowledge. Not all of them will, right? They wouldn't know all these things. But, it's very interesting. It's fun covering city council.
So far I have enjoyed it. It's been good. I've always liked sports background, like you said about the play-by-play. So it is really interesting to get to know all the stats kind of on each player, and what their angle is or what's kind of going on. You have to. It's always about sifting through the noise, right? What are they saying, and then what's actually going
understanding
underneath.
that it's a season. This is just one game, right? And there's a lot of different things, and the playoffs are the elections, and you just sort of you don't go to all guns blazing in this one game on reporting. You got to sort of look at the big picture as well, what's relevant. So it's a cool position.
Yeah, it always seems like it's kind of that balance.
Are you attending practice? Are you going to City Hall? You going to the meetings? Are you putting your reps in? Because Dave and I talked about this, and often Tuesday nights, and I've told him on record, on show, off the record, that like Tuesday nights are typically my softball night, and I run our team. Hello Ben. We have stuff going on. When it ends, I feel like I'm probably going to see you there if you're there. But are you there? Are you hitting the city hall meetings?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have been. I've only. I guess I've only been to 2 since it's been summer session for stuff. So it's
I
been
totally
pretty
recommend
light.
being there in person, especially when you're trying to get to know everybody involved, because you don't see all the subtle body language and other things that are going on if you're just watching the video.
Exactly,
Yeah,
all those
like
nuances of
the
it, right?
nuances of their eye rolls, the smiles, the kibitzing that's in between the two counselors that are on the same side. Somebody getting a little bit irate and red in the face, right?
For
You
sure.
don't catch that in video.
No, definitely.
So it's an excellent way to learn the.
And then it's also kind of nice to, I think it is like to chat with the other reporters as
Yeah.
well. CTV's always there, Coach Co, all the, the Nugget as
Mixing
well.
with like Eric Tashner.
Yes,
Yeah, my
exactly.
boy, yeah.
So it's always nice to just kind of chat with them and maybe even see what their perspective on the thing is, because we're all looking at it with different lenses, right?
I never did that. No, I never did that. Maybe I should have, but I wasn't. I didn't talk to the other media.
No, you stayed within your own.
I had a certain job to do, and I was there to write something more interesting than them. So it didn't really.
He's married to the game.
Right.
It was pretty competitive, right? And I certainly wasn't going to tell them what I was thinking.
That's what I've been hearing a lot, is that that has been changing more of the not intermingling and stuff, but kind of though, right?
Yeah. Well, things have changed in the industry so that there's a lot fewer of them, and they probably feel like they are the last survivors of the, doing the job. So maybe they feel more of a camaraderie than a competitive sort of thing. Now, I know other reporters that spent more time talking to them and being more social. I'm not a social guy anyways. I'm just, in my own head trying to think things through, and I got a plan, and I'm not really...
I'm here to execute.
I'm here to execute, right?
Right.
I know what I want. I'm going to go get it. Right? I don't care what you're doing.
North Bay's turning 100, and what a time to be here. From the buzz of the Heritage Parade to sunset concerts at the waterfront, the city is alive with celebration. And you know who's right in the middle of it all? Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. We're proud to be a part of this milestone moment. Whether you're coming home from a family reunion, planning a gathering with friends, or just simply making the most of everything the Centennial has to offer, our doors are open. Stay in a spacious suite that feels like home, with a full kitchen to cook in, room to relax, and a space to unwind after a full day of fun. Are you hosting something bigger? Our event spaces and amazing local partners like the Grand and Stock Transportation make it easy to bring people together. Best of all, they're just steps from the action. The fireworks, the food trucks, the music, the laughter, it's all right here. Celebrate 100 years of North Bay with us. Use code Centennial to save on your stay anytime this year. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West, or give us a call at 705-495-3000.
Dear North Bay, as a single mom and full-time student, life can feel overwhelming and budgets are always tight. But one thing I never question is how deeply I care about my community. When I began volunteering at the North Bay Regional Health Centre, I saw firsthand how much the healthcare system means to people, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. It made me think, what if it was my child, my parent, or my friend that was in need of care? That's when I realized I wanted to do more, to be part of something bigger than myself. I joined the I Give Monthly Club because even a small monthly gift can have a meaningful impact, helping ensure everyone in our community has access to the care they need right here at home. If you believe in strong, local health care, I hope you'll join me. Sign up at nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125. It's simple and it matters. With gratitude, Kim Cosgrove.
But let's talk about that too, about the whole changing thing, right? Because again, I think there's a really interesting comparison here. Being from North Bay and not being a journalist, but reading the news and speaking to two journalists here with me, I'm trying to remember back in the day, back in the Bay, if you will, what some of the bigger players were in the media landscape locally. And I always remember the Nugget. BayToday kind of came a little bit later, but there was always CTV. I feel like I'm probably missing a few, but I feel like there's a few now, and not including maybe some of the private publications or the radio. But what has kind of come and gone from then to now?
Well, BayToday was actually a major local disruptor to what was the hierarchy of news, right?
Yep.
They started out very energetically, get it first, and commentary, being able to, people were able to anonymously comment on stuff. And that just, we didn't know what to do with that. None of us liked that. None of us thought it was a good idea. None of us, and it wasn't a good idea. Being first with half the facts is not a good idea. It never will be a good idea, but it's the reality we have right now. First with very little context. It's just a recipe for disaster, and allowing people to comment without their real names is a disaster. It's the downfall of society, as far as I'm concerned.
This is your axe to grind here.
Well, yeah, for sure. Like
Now it's time to really execute.
Well, that's what we're missing is the fact that to have a commentary in your opinion in the newspaper,
right?
You had to put your name and your address, and we'd call you after the letter arrived to make sure you mailed us that letter. And we would take out the erroneous stuff. We wouldn't let somebody publish something that we knew that wasn't a fact. It wasn't, and they understood that, right? And the letters were written a lot of times in a way where you didn't have to do much to them because they knew they were going to be censored for civility and liability and all these other things that newspapers had to do because of the constraint of space, right? But now we don't have a constraint of space or time, so it's a little bit different that way. But so BayToday started this locally, but they were part of what was going on everywhere. But the newspapers didn't know how to handle it and react to it.
I remember that. Yeah. They kind of came in. I want to say, did BayToday come in? Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. Around like 2007, 2006, maybe a little bit earlier.
I'm thinking
than
a
that?
little earlier than that because
2004.
Yeah. I'm thinking 2003 for some reason.
Dang, okay. We'll take a look.
2004.
Yeah.
That's over 20
maybe
years.
If you don't mind looking up there, Ben, just Google BayToday started in North Bay when. And but anyways, I remember the sequence of different editors and the people that worked there, and they got better when they got Jeff. I'll put it that way. Jeff has his ways, and we all get constructively criticized on how we go about journalism. But he had a more of a focus on making sure the story gets done, right? And a little bit more of the focus on making sure that the other side's got their voice in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always
a couple
sides,
examples
right?
to the contrary. Like he's a real journalist. Yeah, and we all sort of have those other examples. I have a few.
Because how long did you work at, or when was your term?
I started at the Nugget in 2000.
Oh, okay.
And I left them in 2018. I did do a 6-month stint with BayToday in the 2021 in the spring, I think. And then I wrote a series of a year and a bit of columns after that, and but I still don't like anonymous commentary being allowed in anywhere.
Yeah, no.
I just don't respect. When I was writing columns and people were getting upset with me, and others were saying, "Well, how can you handle all those comments?" I said, "I don't know. I don't read those. If somebody wants to get a hold of me and say something, they better do it in their own name and in email,
right?
Or phone me at least, right?" So 2003.
Oh, so called it.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Dave Dale.
Yeah.
Well done.
The historian.
That's right. You are a resident historian, my friend.
Yeah, that's actually talking about that. I feel like a lot of journalists and reporters, they love history, right? They love that, like you kind of maybe said, and you said like that full scope of what it's going, what's been in the past to now, and what's been in between that.
Yeah, no, and it's cool that we see the evolution. I like sitting back and seeing Peter try to handle the situation now, knowing what he's done and what he was and his path in life and all these things. It's interesting. Right?
What's his story?
What's his story? Well, that would be the top of a good piece if you want to learn about him, do some research. But his story can be probably summarized a little bit like a lot of North Bay guys came from big families. They have a lot of links to the high school chums. He went to Scholar. He was in the mix with Vic Fideli when he ran for mayor. He was part of that slate, is what people thought. And he got elected deputy mayor. So he was budget chief. And I actually nicknamed him the banker because he worked at the bank. He's a loan officer, and he was. I interviewed him many times about the budget and stuff like that. So we had some, and I wrote a lot of stories. Some he didn't like, some he didn't mind. And I wrote a lot of commentary that mostly he didn't like, and other people did. But he was on. He became deputy mayor, re-elected deputy mayor. I'm not sure if he had a third term before he jumped. He got elected because he also ran for the Conservatives for the federal riding at one point. He did what I always hate, is somebody on council stepping down and taking a city hall job. So then he went to be the director of community services, I believe. And the first big project, as that was happening, was the Memorial Gardens renovations.
Right. Okay. Like,
Look at the look on his face. He's like, there's some lore here.
Yeah, so this is his most infamous situation.
Right.
And it just blew up city council and the way things were handled.
Right.
There was there's probably some legal paperwork that describes it better than I can right now. But there was a point there, he got basically let go while he was still in the hospital for some health reasons. And I'm sure that didn't sit well with him. And the way he was let go sort of led to what most of us believe was a settlement, because at one point he was locked out of City Hall because he wasn't officially let go. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that went on that was a real big burr in the saddle afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of pieces.
And then he reemerged as the chamber president, right? And we all knew where that was going, and it went exactly where we thought it would, as far as him running for mayor and then getting a second chance. It was funny that the community was fairly split on how he was treated and his role in the situation with the Memorial Gardens overage, right? And but in the end, I think that the strongest amount of his backers sided with him, that he wasn't treated well, right? So then he had a little bit more backing to get back into it. As it sits now, I don't know. If I was you, I'd be looking at his donor list and checking to see if they're still behind him, right? And I would go right down it and see who's who and where they're at. And you'll see names that it will pop up where they're with other groups, right? And then you'll start understanding who's behind him and who isn't.
Have you always had that investigative kind of mind?
I would never have called myself an investigative journalist, but I do research on things that of interest to me, and I'm more of a strategic chess player than anything.
North Bay's Littlefinger.
Yeah, well,
that's not fair to say to you.
No, it's more like the understanding the game and seeing who's moving the pieces, not me. Just understanding who might be doing what against who and who's with who.
You're the person who's the hand that's moving it around, but the pieces are moving themselves. You're just then putting them where they want it to go.
Yeah, the pieces are moving themselves by the people involved. I'm putting the spotlight on the pieces to explain why they were moved and who's moving them.
Right, the lighting guy.
Yeah,
the lighting
I'm
guy,
just putting a spotlight.
And I'm just here. I just want to play checkers.
I just want to play checkers. I just
want to play checkers, man. Simpler, it's easier.
Well, you know, there's a role for you in journalism now.
Oh, is that? Oh, man. But no, it's, I mean, again, it's funny that you bring up the whole investigative kind of journalist, because I from what I do know, is that every journalist has their different mentality, their different like method of way of going about stuff. And like for me, like when it comes to preparing a story or a media release or preparing for an episode, I try to do as much homework as possible, right? Like not the fact that I want to like lead myself into like knowing something that I don't need to know, or like not opening myself up to discovery, but making sure like I'm adequately equipped in terms of understanding what we're talking about. Even if I don't have an opinion on it necessarily, I want to know the topic, right? And I think when it comes to stuff like this, when it comes to City Hall and what Peter's going through right now, like I mean, I'll speak very personally. Like I have a very friendly relationship with Peter, but this is definitely a very interesting story for the city right now. It's probably gonna be a very memorable city story when you guys do your, what was the biggest topic of the year? Because I know BayToday loves their polls and loves their surveys. I can't imagine this is going anywhere quickly anytime soon. It's going to be a bit of a slow cook, but it's definitely a fascinating story right now.
I was talking to some people on the weekend about it, and it's interesting how the narrative is changing in people's minds, because I think a good amount of people are really upset that $16,000 is grabbing everybody's attention when there's more important things to do. And it's a shame that council can't figure this out and get by it, and so that they can tackle more important issues. And that's more and more right now is happening. It's just 16 grand. Who cares? He paid it back. Yeah, watch him closer. Have better rules. Whatever.
More transparency.
We got people. We got people dying. There's the summer lull and the homelessness is making it feel like it's solved. It always does. And then come fall and winter comes, and then we realize, oh no, we didn't solve anything. And those every second is ticking away to those major priorities. People driving by the twin pad construction are just aghast that they're still. They're arguing about 16 grand and how that was a big deal when there's $60 million had been sunk in the ground, as we don't have enough accommodations for people and there's nowhere to rent, and people are getting gouged here more than they are anywhere else, right? Like, so there's that. And then there's others who are like, we got to get a better mayor. We got to get better situation. This shows you that we don't have the transparency. You can't believe anybody's campaign promises, right? And this is what this is all proven. And then the ones we elected aren't even getting along, right? So then there's others that just won't blow it up. And they think this is a big example of the problem, and it should be dealt with. And they like to see the pimple pop, for lack of a better description. They're both right. They're both right. But we're going to have to go through this process that now it started. And some will make hay of it. But usually what happens is you hand people ropes and they end up hanging themselves, right? And the more people get too happy to kick somebody when they're down, often I see that they lose their balance and end up on the back too, right? So there's going to be some of that, which is part of the description of the sports game, right? You have casualties in the victory, and then to see, okay, where are they heading and what are they doing? Like Jamie Lowry, what is he really doing, right? Why was that motion worded like that? It was like poison pills. It was like he didn't want it passed. He just wanted people to vote it down.
There's a lot of pushback on the wording in that.
Yeah, well, and it was worded that way, I think, on purpose. Because it could have been worded in another way where they couldn't have voted no. Right? And I think the Lana's motion, that I was glad to see you did a follow-up story with Lana's motion, because that should have been at the top of the stories the first night, I thought. It got buried and sort of cast aside. But for them to agree to put that and to actually put it into context, and I'm not 100% sure, are we going to see the exact expense or just totals, right? But I want to... that's really important step towards transparency. So that was like huge.
That should have been.
I think so. Yeah.
The number one on it, exactly, right?
Because they argued and gave up, and it just showed the difficulty of them being able to articulate something that would get through the process. So that's what Jamie doesn't have experience at, is getting something done without having power to just push it through. So he doesn't know how to do that. Jamie, you can debate me on it.
James been on the show recently.
Yeah, he'll be listening.
Next episode.
Yeah, and Tanya has the same difficulty to articulate what she was trying to do and to do it in a way that didn't that achieved her purpose. Like she has a difficulty doing that, right? So they have to get better at what they want to do if they're going to achieve any change, or to call everybody down or to run for position again and say they have the answer. Well, I'd like to see it.
I mean, I fully expect my city councilors to probably not get along, and that's okay. I just want them to get stuff done. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. Maybe that's a very naive way of viewing it, but like disagreement and discourse is fine, because if they're on the same page, then that feels a little off to me, because it's like, okay, well, is everything going too well? You know, it's the whole like, is it too good to be true kind of situation. But I think, yeah, I don't envy their position. I don't want to be. I want their position. I mean, to be fair, I don't really want your position. You're at the front lines, my friend. But it is interesting, and I think now going forward, you know, you have such an interesting, you know, position to be in platforming and working with all these city councilors and all these members of, you know, collaborating with the local media members, and you know, it's an interesting point. I'm assuming you've got to know a couple of them fairly well at this point. Maybe you spoke with Lana Mitchell.
Yeah. Pretty much. Or there's a couple of them I still need to tick off the box or whatever. But yeah, no, I've been like slowly kind of starting to reach out to them and stuff. I think at the beginning I wrote a story just about the basketball courts. I love basketball a lot, so I was like, I'm going to just reach out. It's been a couple of years since those downtown basketball courts. I know there's been like a lot of revitalization talk going on in the downtown. So I reached out to them. I reached out to Lana, and then I reached out to Justine as well, and just got her perspective. So I think like even just like reaching about those stories just gets that first connection kind of going, and then from there you can get the ball rolling for sure. You
have to do that mix of community oriented stories and the hard nosed stuff, right? You have to do that mix, and you have to do the community interest stories before you start knocking the door down, to have any type of relationship of that's worthwhile. I used to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly right.
I like to think our show has a pretty good laneway into city council. I've been told that they listen. That's great. Thank you for listening, councilors. We appreciate it. You're always welcome on the show.
When we're talking about their business.
That's hey, you know what? Like as an elected official, I think it's of their interest.
Right? Well, they you were going to say something, so I want to get back to that. I don't know if you're going to remember your thought, but yes, having them here to discuss things in a long form discussion and to explain their a little bit more of the nuances and the complete narrative, they appreciate that, because that's what they don't get in stories sometimes.
So the thing I was going to ask about was you might, I'm not too sure actually. Well, let's see. What's with the ward system? About wanting a ward system and not wanting a ward system? What is the history about that? What do you think about
grab
that?
Your popcorn, folks.
Would that help things, make things worse?
Well, the problem with that whole concept is that every election it comes up, and every election people say they're look into it, and after every election, they meet with city staff and they decide, I guess it's not going to work, and they never do a fulsome examination of what a ward system in North Bay would look like to consider, right? So they get stuck at the navel gazing stage without finishing the thought. So it'll never die. That topic will never die until they come up with, okay, this was what the best type of ward system for North Bay would look like. It's going to be a hybrid. We're going to have 4 wards, and we're going to have 6 at large. These wards are going to be for these communities, and to be able to run for it, you can run at large as well. If in case you get kicked out by somebody across the street that has 10 votes more than you, but you have thousands of votes more than anybody else, so you get to be at large, right? To see exactly a system that might address all the different bugaboos that people have about it, and then find out what that system would look like. Well, they've never done that. So they can never make that will never go away until they come up and then put it to a plebiscite and let it go, right? Let it go whatever direction, but they don't want to. They rule it out anyways. So it's going to be on there. It's going to be that albatross for sure, ever.
Yeah, because it seems like what I've been hearing from the comments and stuff, they don't feel represented by not represented, but with all that transparency and all that topic going on about transparency, people don't feel like their council is representing them well. So that's why I thought, why, if you have a ward system, this person's in my area, they want the interests of my community within that. But then I guess maybe you get lost a little bit of, do we get lost out of what's best for North Bay as a whole?
That's what they think. But how could you get, you can't come to that conclusion without trying it and at least putting something forward where it addresses those things. I think they could function similar to a ward system without going to a ward system. They could, because what happens is you have the chairs of these committees and everything has to go through them. So if your topic is going through the chair and the chair doesn't see your email, which happens, right? And you're not getting any representation. You want a second person to call. Well, who's that second person, right? And who should be somebody that is familiar with that neighborhood and the situation, the history, the future, the issues, right? So they could designate ward representatives without voting for ward representatives, and to have that person be the point person that gets those calls that looks at those micro issues, and still they would know that their job is to represent everybody, but their assignment is to take those calls and look into them. Nobody's listening.
We're always listening to you, Dave. This is another one of Dave's many axes in his shed that he has to grind. Because we did talk about this on the show, actually, and I think you may have alluded to it. We had Jamie Lowry come on the show and talk about the ward system and how the proposal or the vote to propose it or to investigate it or to look into it was denied. And I mean, obviously, I'm always very cognizant of how comment sections are often a very louder minority, possibly. But I mean, the fact that it's been an election topic for so many years means it extends beyond just what people are vocalizing at the keyboard, right? It is a very interesting point of discussion, and I think the value. It's just so funny how this works. The value in which the money they could have proposed to get this looked at is comparable to what's going on with the mayor. I mean, there's a amount of money that we could do to answer the quells of the people, even if we end up. So this is one of these interesting topics where I came in having no opinion, and Dave very much has an opinion, and that's fantastic. And now I am kind of coming on board with just let's just get it looked at. If it's $20,000, this sounds so maybe not even irresponsible. Just look at it, right? If there's interest, right, and it serves the community, and it can maybe get some more, unique projects done. Let's just look into it. Let's just look into it, man.
If I was the mayor of North Bay and I told people before I got elected that I was going to look into the ward system, and then somebody described how much it would cost and that it was probably not going to go anywhere, and I was going to flip-flop on my position, I would at the very least do what every good council does when they don't want to actually deal with something. Punt it into a committee. Make a citizens committee on a ward system and let them do the work. You want it? Show us what you want. We'll vote on it.
Yeah, it's not going away. So I imagine if you got some stored information, some articles, some conversations, episodes of a podcast, Stephen, I don't know. I'm sure you're going to see that topic again, along with a lot of others. So before we get going, obviously, shout out to Will. Thank you for coming on the show. Please, everyone.
Whereabouts are you living?
I'm in Calendar right now. I'm in I'm in Calendar, so outside of the city. Still, before that, me and my wife were at my in-laws down in Bracebridge for a couple months while we were transitioning from Barrie up to here.
Calendar's a nice spot.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
out
really
in Corbeil.
Nice. Oh, okay, nice. Awesome. Yeah, we're right now looking to get a mortgage, get a house,
Nice.
trying to settle down and stuff and all that.
Okay.
So we're looking around the North Bay area, trying to figure that out. So hopefully,
Yeah, well, it would be it would be very good for the City Hall reporter to know what the tax rates are in the surrounding communities.
yeah, absolutely.
But no, I mean, honestly, go check out Will's stuff. You're very busy, obviously, but you're always welcome on the show. We invite all city councilors, all journalists from the area, if they want to come in and talk about a piece. Obviously, that rule still applies. We want to get to hear from your perspective because you are the boots on the ground. Because I have to go 0-3 at the plate. You know, I can't be there on Tuesday nights. We thank you for your work, obviously, but you're always welcome on the show, Will.
Oh, I really appreciate it a whole ton and getting to know you guys and looking forward to getting to know North Bay.
Yeah, it's about to get very, very interesting, I'm sure, as we lead up to the playoffs. The sports reference has been very solid the whole way through. It's been very good
It's been great.
Because the elections are next year. They're not that far away, really.
They've already started.
5 months.
They've already started.
They've already started.
Let the games continue.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Essentials podcast.
That was a good interview with Will. I was very impressed with his perspective on his job and the humility of where he's at as a beginner, and with the responsibility of covering a city council like North Bay.
Yeah. And make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all those good things on the episode where you find your episodes, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you find your stuff.
Or you can write an old-fashioned letter to Dave Dale.
You can always do that too. And on that note, I'm Chris Pekarski.
And I'm Dave Dale.
Thanks for listening.